The Canadians, who are in the driver's seat for the second wildcard spot with games in hand on Columbus, games in hand on the Rangers, more points than Columbus and Red Wings. A win tonight just could put Montreal even closer to the playoffs, which was something that didn't really seem possible in December.
No, and we talked about it before the trade deadline. Like Jake Evans signs, he gets that new 4-year deal. And there were other pieces that could have moved at the deadline, but they didn't move them. And, Nick Suzuki told Kent Hughes he believed in the guys in the room. And it sounded, from the sounds of it, it sounded like Kent Hughes was going to do some other moves. And they just said, you know what, we're going to stand pat. And I think that was a good decision, especially coming from a guy like Suzuki, because, as the leader of the team, he's a big voice. He's backing up his play. Didn't get selected for Team Canada, and is showing why Price should be on that team when the Olympics rolls around next February.
He's been on a tear, man. He's put this team on his back. And like all the debate of he's not a number one center, it's throw it in the trash because he is. And he's proving that he's a big game player. And look, if the Canadians make the playoffs, I'm looking at Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, and Sam Montembeault. These three guys have really just stepped it up in the last few weeks. And it's exciting news. It's exciting stuff to see because the management could really rely on them for future seasons. That these guys are big game players, and when it's time, they'll show up.
And obviously, we got to talk about because we posted the video on the YouTube page, Full Press Hockey. Please subscribe. But like the last video when we put it up about Lane Hutson, should be winning the Calder Trophy. That did well with our Canadian fan base. And I still think he should win it, even though it's going to be a really close, race for it, especially with Dustin Wolf still in Calgary. But Hudson's played well. Gooley's new contract comes in next year. Slavkovsky's new deal steps up next year. Obviously, the injury to Kirby Dach. And I think the Montreal Canadiens, though they weren't active at the deadline, I think will be active in the offseason. And I think they're going to look for a 2C. We saw what they've done in the past off seasons. Alex Newhook at the draft, Kirby Dach at the draft. And part of that trade was moving out Romanoff to get that first round pick to get Kirby Dach. Then you get Patrick Laine. And let's put all the talk aside of Patrick Laine and his minutes and, whether he should be playing and all that stuff. The guy's a goal scorer. This is what he does. If you expect defense out of Patrick Laine, then you're expecting too much from that player. That's not who he is. He's a goal scorer. And you can see it carries over. There's a domino effect. When he scores, everybody else is going. And so I think that's the area that Kent Hughes is really going to address. I know they discussed the Dylan Cousins thing. We'll get to that in a minute. But I feel like this is going to be another busy offseason, draft, and summer for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, Jim, obviously a 2C, but they just want a star player. They want to go big game hunting, and that's something they haven't done since the new management came in because they're obviously rebuilding. But, you're getting Ivan Demidov next year. You're getting Goulet back. You're getting, your full team back, and you want to start competing for the playoffs and being a lock for the playoffs. That's what you want to be. You don't want to be, this year was being in the mix. It was fighting, playing meaningful games. But next year it's going to be, by February, you already want to be in that playoff spot and have some security. So, I think free agent market, they'll look at some options there. I don't know, maybe a long shot, but Mitch Marner, I don't know if he wants to go to the rivals and be, hated in the city of Toronto, but, he's an option. Matt Duchene, veteran presence, someone who willingly said that after his career, he would like to raise his family in Montreal. That was pointed out by Renaud Lavoie of TVA. Or if they want to go younger, they have to do a hockey trade. But Ken Hughes said it yesterday that they're probably going to have to overpay for a player, and they're okay with that.
Yeah, no, they have to be, right? Because we said it from the beginning of the season, wrote about it, talked about it even in the summer. This was the year, whether they wanted to admit it publicly or not, this was the year the Montreal Canadiens had to be playing meaningful hockey in March and April, and they're doing it. And, everybody's like, oh, if they what do you see the Canadiens this season as successful as? Well, I see it as you're playing meaningful hockey. And if you get in the playoffs, that's the gravy on top of a great season. If you don't, well, you just took the next step in your rebuild, doing things the right way under Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon. And next year is the playoffs. Like next year's goal is playoffs if you miss. But, I've always had a belief in the Montreal Canadiens. I love the way they built this team. I've said it from the start. If Jeff Gordon stayed in New York, this would have been the trajectory the Rangers would have been on, and they wouldn't be doing what they've been doing under Chris Drury. But look, Montreal Canadiens hire the right guys, do things the right way, make smart hockey trades. Let's see if they keep David Savard around. Let's see if they keep Joel Armia around. They have guys coming, so maybe those guys are replaceable. But if you can get them on a short-term deal, you keep them because you could see how well the mix is there in Montreal.
Yeah, and it just, you don't want to think too ahead because you're enjoying the moment, but it's going to be an exciting summer for Montreal and it's going to be an active one. They're going to try and make this team better. And yeah, they're a team to watch in